I stopped trying to get every track signed, and my streams went up. 3.5 million in the last 12 months with one label, one relationship. That's not what producers are told to do. So before I started releasing with a record label called Lilly Era, I was in a position that a lot of producers are in, which is you're sending demos off to a few different record labels. You might be getting ignored or rejected. They might be saying this song's not for them, or it's just not good enough quality wise. And I had that for quite a while, to the point where I just stopped chasing record labels. I was self-releasing a little bit by myself just because I wanted to get my music out there. And I, in that point, started to really focus on making sure before I send any more music to record labels that it was as good a quality as I can possibly get it, because then there's going to be more chance of something getting signed. So after spending a long time honing my craft, doing courses, doing sessions with other producers, gaining feedback, I was then in the position that I had a few demos and I wanted to send them off to a record label. And this is where the next part of the story is really interesting, because I always thought I would send a demo off and eventually someone would come back to me. But actually the biggest thing that made a difference here was an introduction to an A&R, a record label, from one of my producer friends. So I live here in the UK, and the producer, who's my friend, lives in America. Now, I've never met them. I've only interacted through social media, but through being in the same melodic house scene and interacting a bit online, we built up a kind of producer relationship over the last year. And then that meant that when I said to him, I've got some demos that I'm thinking of sending off, he already had a relationship with an A&R. So he just basically tagged me into an email with the A&R and just got me straight in the door with them. Then they said, great, send some demos. I sent 5 demos off and he signed 2 of them straight away. Those first 2 demos have gone on to gain, one of them's on about, I think, 500,000 streams. The other one's just reached over 1 million streams. And since then, I've signed about 5 more tracks with them. But the key here is what really opened the door wasn't me just sending off loads of demos to different labels. It was actually a relationship I'd built outside of sending demos off. It was a relationship with a producer who we've met online. We had shared interest, and they were generous enough and knew after listening to my music that it was probably good enough to send to this label. That was the key moment that opened that door. So a great takeaway from this is don't underestimate the relationships that you're building just online, whether or in person, whether you're going to gigs, whether you're just liking and following people on social media, speaking to people in DMs. It might be one of those people that actually open a door for you that then means that you're getting traction, you're getting things signed, you're gaining streams, whatever it might be. So just keep building those relationships and don't underestimate, the power of those, basically, because that's what changed the game for me. I also just want to add that it can be quite a daunting thing to try and get to know new producers. So that's why I created a private community. It's hosted on Discord, and it's where electronic music producers just share their demos, get feedback, talk to like-minded people, have conversations about the music industry. So yeah, it's a really cool little community. I'll pop a link to it below if you are interested in having a little look and signing up. So yeah, anyway, back to the video. But what happened next was really interesting, because before my mindset was, as soon as I've made a song, send it off, try and get it signed. And what changed was that when I was sending these demos to record labels, not all of them were getting signed, but my streams started to go up and up and up. And it was because they were figuring out which songs are the best. And what it did is it meant that when I was in the studio, I didn't have to put so much pressure on every single track. I would make the track to the best of my ability. But then if I sent them a batch of 3 to 5 demos, knowing that maybe 2 or even 3 of them might not even get signed, but the 2 that do, or the 1 that does, they're going to really push my artist project forward, then that is a win in my eyes. And I started to use the A&R approach in the studio as well. So as much as I send batches to the A&R and they decide which one's best, you can start that process early. So I make a ton of ideas, and then I pick the best ideas to then form a full track, and then I'll So basically, I'll have sent the absolute best work that I have got to the record label, and then they pick the best one out of there. So it's like there's a screening process going on from the moment I start making ideas in Ableton to the point where something gets signed. And it's cool because it means that in the studio you can just experiment and just get on with making cool music and enjoying that process. And knowing that not every song has to get signed to be able to gain streams, gain momentum, and progress as a music artist. So it takes a lot of pressure off, but the only way to do that is to reduce the expectation that every single song you need to get signed, and you need it to be out in the world. When you start letting go of that, it does feel a lot easier in the studio, feels a bit lighter, and then also it makes it a bit easier when you're sending demos off because you're not getting so kind of stuck with the kind of expectation. Now, one key factor in this whole story is that I stuck with one label and one relationship. And basically, when I started releasing with Lilly Era, there was one A&R, and we were back and forth through email at the start. And then after a couple of signings, he said, right, just message me on WhatsApp from now on. And now I just send demos to his WhatsApp, and then he'll take them to the A&R meeting, and he'll give voice note feedback to me on WhatsApp. And sometimes even he asks me my opinions on his music. He'll send them over to me. And the only way to get to that level is by building that relationship with one label or one person. I don't send my music to 5 different A&Rs at Lilly Era. I just send them to this one person. Now, he then invited me down to London to their studios to meet them all, and since then we've set up a full mix that we put on YouTube. So I've also met them a bunch of times as well, and every single thing that we've done has just built that relationship even more, to the point where now they will trust more that I'm going to send them demos that they're going to like, and they're more likely to sign them, because I guess I've shown over the years that, or over the last year, that I will listen to their feedback, and if they say a song isn't quite good enough, I don't try and hammer it, back to them. I'll go off and either make some adaptations or make something new, and then come back with some fresh ideas. And after doing that for the last year, we've now signed about 7 tracks, 3.5 million streams, and I think there's definitely some trust there between us all. And you only get that by nurturing that relationship and not trying to send your music off to loads of different labels, get loads of different people to hear them. You just need one decent connection, and to basically just nurture that relationship. When that happens, you will find it gets easier to make better quality music, because you're going to be getting consistent feedback from an A&R, and then it'll end up being easier to get tracks signed, because your quality is just going to go up, and their trust in you is going to go up. You'll start seeing what songs work, what songs don't, what songs feel good in the studio, what songs don't, and it makes it easier to pitch to them the right songs, and then they're more likely to get signed. So how mad is that? I stopped trying to get every track signed, but the streams went up and up, and they're on about 10 to 15,000 a day at the moment, which is mad. But this is the exact kind of thing that I help producers with. I've got a private community over on Discord where people are sharing demos, getting feedback, all within the electronic music scene. And I also help with some one-to-ones, just helping people navigate all this kind of stuff that we've been talking about today. So I'll pop a few links below to my website and the Discord channel. Feel free to check them out. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you gained something from it. I'm going to be posting loads more stuff like this. So yeah, check out some of my other content, and I will see you on the next video.